For as long as I can remember, my dad always promised me that no matter what happened, he would be there for me. And for a while, I believed him. But now, as I sit here shaking, trying to piece together the wreckage of what's left of my future, I realize I was nothing more than an afterthought, a casualty in the double life he built behind my back. I'm 22 now, but this story starts years ago, long before I knew the truth. My parents divorced when I was 10. My mom, an absolute warrior, worked 2 jobs just to keep us afloat. My dad moved a few states away for work. He called every few weeks, sent birthday cards with a crisp $20 bill tucked inside, and, most importantly, swore up and down that he was saving for my college education. That promise became my anchor, the one thing that kept me pushing forward. I threw myself into school, 4.0 GPA, science fair trophies, volunteer work, because I believed that if I worked hard enough, my dad's savings would help me reach my dream of studying marine biology. But then, things started to shift. By my junior year of high school, his calls became less frequent. Once a month, then every 6 months. I'd hear kids laughing in the background sometimes, but when I asked, he brushed it off with a chuckle. Just the neighbor's brats, he'd say. Something about it felt off. But I was naive. I wanted to believe he was still the dad who taught me how to ride a bike, who took me fishing, who promised he'd always be there. Senior year, I got into my dream school, a full-ride scholarship for tuition, but I still needed money for housing, books, and food. I called my dad, ecstatic. He laughed and said, "Don't worry, kiddo. I've got $40,000 saved up just for you." I sobbed in relief, telling my mom how he'd finally come through when it mattered most. Then summer rolled around. I packed my bags, waiting for the check he promised to send. Days passed. Then weeks. Nothing. I called. Texted. Emailed. Silence. Panic set in as my dorm deposit deadline loomed. Finally, he picked up. His voice was strained, awkward. "Sweetie, there's been a hiccup. The money's tied up. I'll figure it out." Spoiler, he never did. I lost my dorm spot. Scrambled for last-minute loans just to cover the basics. My mom was furious, leaving voicemail after voicemail that he never answered. I started college anyway, working nights at a diner, barely sleeping, drowning in stress. But I held on to that dream, clawing my way through, telling myself I'd make it on my own if I had to. Then, 2 years later, in March 2023, everything unraveled. My cousin, Jen, called me out of the blue. Her voice was shaking. "You need to see this." She sent me a Facebook link, my dad's profile, which had been locked down for years. But Jen had a mutual friend who got her screenshots. And there he was. My dad, grinning in a Hawaiian shirt, arms wrapped around a woman I had never seen before. 2 kids, an 8-year-old boy and a 6-year-old girl, splashing in a pool beside him. The caption: "Family Vokery with my crew." My stomach turned. Family? What family? I scrolled through the comments, strangers gushing over how beautiful his family was, how happy he looked. My blood ran cold. With Jen's help, I dug deeper. Public records, old posts, anything we could find. And the truth hit me like a freight train. My dad had been living a double life for over a decade. The woman in the photos. Lisa. His wife. His other wife. The kids. My half-siblings. Children I never knew existed. And the money. The $40,000 he had promised me. It had never been for me at all. It had been spent on them, on their vacations, their home, their lives. All while I was working myself to the bone, barely affording to eat, convinced that I was the problem. That I had done something wrong. I confronted him. Called. Texted. Demanded answers. He dodged me for weeks until finally, he caved. His excuse: "You wouldn't understand. I had to take care of my family." His family. As if I had never been part of it. So I cut him off. Deleted his number. Blocked him on everything. But now, months later, I keep wondering, was I wrong? Should I have seen this coming? Should I have expected it? Or am I justified in shutting him out of my life for good? 5 years ago, Lisa bought a house, the whole white picket fence fantasy. Meanwhile, I was meeting my dad in dingy, moldy apartments, thinking he was struggling, thinking he was busy with work. I had no idea that while I was scraping by, barely holding on to my dream, he was living in a shiny new reality built on my broken promises. Then Jen found it, the picture that shattered any lingering illusion I had. Lisa's daughter, dressed in a sparkling tutu, beaming under stage lights at her dance recital. The timestamp. The exact week my dad told me he couldn't send my college money. It wasn't tied up. It was gone. He had drained my fund, my $40,000, to pay for their mortgage, their perfect little home, their private school tuition. I saw red. I got in my car and drove 300 miles, straight to his front door, unannounced. My mom didn't even know I was going. I don't think she realized just how deep my rage ran. When he opened the door, his face drained of color. But then, as if nothing had happened, he tried to pull me into a hug. I shoved him back. Lisa was in the kitchen. The kids peeked at me from the staircase, wide-eyed, unaware of the wreckage their father had left behind in his wake. I didn't care. "Where's my college money, Dad?" My voice shook, but my anger was louder. "You gave it to them." He stammered, eyes darting to Lisa as if searching for an escape. "I meant to tell you, things got complicated." Lisa cut in, arms crossed, voice dripping with self-righteousness. "We're family now. You can't expect him to ignore his kids." That was it. That was the moment something inside me snapped. "A ghost," I spat. "That's what I am to you." A small voice piped up from the stairs. "Who's she, Daddy?" And then the final dagger, without hesitation, without remorse, he answered, "Just an old friend." That was all I needed to hear. I don't even remember what I screamed. Every curse, every heartbreak, every ounce of betrayal ripped out of me in that moment. I called him everything I could think of. Told him he was dead to me. Then I got in my car, tears blurring my vision, and sped away so fast I almost crashed. When I got home, I told my mom everything. She was devastated, but not surprised. She said she always suspected he was hiding something. I blocked his number. But then the letters came. "I'm sorry. I love you. Let me explain." And then Lisa's emails followed. "You're selfish. Those kids deserve a future too. A future at my expense. Now, my family is split. Half tell me I should forgive him, he's still your dad. The other half say he's a liar who robbed me of my future. I can't afford a lawyer, so I'm not suing. But I have cut him out completely. My mom is proud of me for standing my ground. And yet, I feel hollow. That money was my shot. My chance to build the life I dreamed of. And he handed it to strangers who don't even know my name. Am I wrong for cutting him out? Should I have let him explain? Or is this betrayal too deep to ever fix?"